Welcome back, dear students. Today I am going to deal with one topic, agents of pollination. Okay. Unlike all the organisms, in flowering plants, the gametes are non-motile. Okay. So if they are non-motile, they need to be brought together in order to fertilization, right? Okay. So who are going to brought them together for fertilization? There are some agents for that. Okay. So the agents are of different types. The types are abiotic agents and biotic agents. Abiotic meaning non-living or lifeless agents, we can say. And which are lifeless agents like water, wind or air are the abiotic agents. Biotic meaning living agents. Okay, now living organisms can be animals. Animals like insects, then some rodents, some bees, ants also. All these examples, butterflies, birds, moth are all the examples of this biotic agents. Okay. Now, if I compare biotic and abiotic agents, majority of the plants uses biotic agents. Now, why they are using biotic agents in more number? Now, why? Because if suppose there is a plant, okay, there is a plant, okay, and this is particular flower of the plant. Flower has got the anther. Okay. Now anther, from the anther pollens are released. Okay. There is one more flower over here. And this is the stigma. Okay. And if suppose wind is flowing or air is coming in this direction and pollen has to come to stigma in this direction. Okay, so what happens over here? This becomes a chance factor. Okay, so wind is going this way and the pollen has to come this way. So out of this, if the stigma is lucky enough, then only one or two pollen may go and sit on this. So it becomes a chance factor over here. And if suppose this is a biotic agent, this particular flower is using a biotic agent, maybe insect is coming here, insect is sitting on this particular flower, so pollens will be sticking to that particular insect legs or insect body. Okay, and that since the flower is here, next flower is here, the insect will come in this direction only and will come and sit on this flower. So this becomes a fertilization rate in case of biotic is more compared to that of the abiotic agents. Okay, so in order to compensate with these abiotic problems, the pollens are released in n number compared to that of the number of the ovules or female gamete. Okay, so pollens will be produced in thousands compared to that of the female gamete. Okay, now let me tell you of the first type of pollination, that is wind pollination. Okay, so pollination by wind. Now we say that transfer of pollen from one flower, okay, or from anther to the next flower on the stigma of the flower through the agency of wind is referred as wind pollination. Okay, wind pollination is also referred as anemophily. Okay, now in order to anemophily to occur, there are some requirements of the flower. Okay, so we'll see that requirements first. Very first requirement is pollens which are released from the anther should be light in weight. Now why they need to be light in weight? Imagine if they are heavy. Okay, if they are heavy, through wind currents they may fall down. Okay, they will fall down obviously if they are heavy. So very first requirement, wherein wind pollination to occur, the pollens should be light in weight. Second thing, pollens should be non-sticky. Now why I am saying pollen should be non-sticky? If suppose there is a leaf over here, okay, and via wind current, if the pollens are coming, they will directly go and stick to the leaf. Wherever they will wherever they will get the surface, they will go and stick on that. Otherwise, if they come in contact with each other, they may stick here also. So they may stick to each other also. So pollen should be non-sticky over here. Okay. Next thing, anther should be exposed. Now why I am saying the anther should be exposed? Imagine if you remember about Clistogamous flower. Okay, this is a flower which do not open at all. So if they are not opening, anther will be inside. So how through the wind it is going to carry the pollens, right? So anthers should be exposed, very important thing. So wherever the wind comes, if the anther is exposed and if it is dehiscized, the pollens will be carried easily by the wind. Okay. Next, stigma should be you can say stigma surface should be broad. Okay. Next, though it is broad, it should have some feathery structure or hairy like stigma should be there. Now why hairy or feathery structure should be there on the stigma? Because if suppose the pollens are coming, okay, and they will be exposed to the stigma, there should be some agents, there should be some receptors, or I can say feathers act as a catch holders for this pollen. So they catch these pollens and then the pollination will take place. So very important thing over here, the pollens or the stigma should be feathery or hairy, you can say. Okay, so these are some of the requirements of the flower. Apart from this, normally the flowers which are pollinated by wind, they have only one ovule or single ovule in the ovary. You know why? As I told you the reason, if there are many ovules, if suppose, okay, and wind pollination is a chance factor. Now if suppose out of this 100, only 2 are coming and there are 3 ovules over here. So only 2 pollens will come and fertilize this ovule. Remaining 1 will remain like that only without fertilization. So in order to compensate this problem also, ovules or wind pollinated flowers normally have single ovule in their ovary. Remember this. Alright. Okay, so we have seen anemophily, the characteristics of flower. Very first I told you pollen should be light. They should be non-sticky, anthers should be exposed, then stigma should be feathery or hairy, and there should be single ovule in the flower. Okay, this is about the wind pollinated flowers or wind pollination. Next is pollination by water. Okay, now water pollination or the process is also referred as hydrophily. Hydro simply means water. So pollination by water is referred as hydrophily. Okay. Now hydrophily is very rare, we say. Now why it is rare? Because majority of the plants are found on flowering plants are found on the terrestrial or on the land we find them. Okay, and hardly some we find in the water. Now which other plants will we find in the water? Is normally the algae we find. Okay, bryophytes, because they require, if you know that male gametes are transferring to the female gametes through the water, so they need to be present in the water. Some pteridophytes are also found nearby to the water areas. Okay, so algae, pteridophytes and bryophytes. But if I am talking about the angiosperm, normally monocots are being pollinated by water, and out of this, from the total angiosperm, it is related or it is limited only to 30 genera. So out of all angiosperms, only 30 genus are being pollinated by water. Okay, now you will say that all plants living in the water, all flowering plants present in the water are pollinated by water. See, we cannot say that, because if I am telling you an example of water hyacinth, if you remember about Eichhornia, terror of Bengal, they have beautiful purple color flowers, right? And these flowers are emerging on the surface of water. Okay, I'll show you the picture here. See, this is that flower I'm telling you. Okay, these flowers are on the top of the water. There is water inside, right? So this flower need not be pollinated by water. Either this particular flower, the pollens are released from this flower, and this pollens are coming on this particular flower. If suppose, now that can be carried by the wind or can be carried by the insects. So I cannot say this plant is actually aquatic plant, but it is not necessary for them to be pollinated by water. Okay, so there may be wind pollination over here, there can be insect pollination over here. Okay, so not all aquatic plants are pollinated by water. Remember this. Okay, now which are the plants which are pollinated by water? There are some examples. Some freshwater plants are Vallisneria. Okay, I will show you the picture of Vallisneria and Hydrilla also. Some marine water plants are marine seagrasses known as Zostera. Okay, let me tell you the example directly. I will tell you the example of and explain you about Vallisneria. Now this is the actual plant Vallisneria. In this plants, the female flower, just see here, the female flower is arising on the surface of the water via a long stalk. Okay, this is the plant, but flower is coming on top via the long stalk. This is a type of adaptation. In order to come on the surface of the water, the flowers are having the long stalk. Okay, so flowers are on the surface of water now. And here what happens, male flower is releasing the pollens. Okay, and pollens through water currents will be going and will be landing on the stigma of the female flower, and the pollination will take place and the fertilization will take place over here. Okay, so this is in case of Vallisneria, freshwater plants over here. Okay, the flowers are arising on the surface of the water via long stalk female flower, and male flower are releasing the pollens, and through water currents they are moving and landing on the stigma of the flower. Okay, now here also there should be some requirements. The pollens which are going by the water currents, the pollen should not be pollen should be waterproof. If suppose pollens are getting wet because they are present in the water, then the pollens will come down, right? So in order to prevent that, pollens are having, or pollens are surrounded by some mucilaginous sheath. Okay, so pollens are surrounded by some mucilaginous sheath. Okay, that is very important requirement in case of Vallisneria. Next example I will tell you about marine water plants, that is marine seagrass Zostera. Now here this Zostera, you can see here, these are the marine seagrasses. Okay, they have flowers submerged in the water. See, this is the surface of the water and flowers are submerged in the water. Okay, so here flowers will be, if I am considering this is male flower and this is female flower, if suppose, okay, male flowers will be releasing the pollens, and that pollen will come in contact with this female flower. So via the wind current only it will be moving, but it is present inside. So here what happens, the pollens are always in a, I can say they are like filament. Okay, hairy like pollen, a very long pollens will be present here, somewhat like this. Okay, long pollens, filament like pollen, so that this filament like pollens will be easily going, carried in the water currents, and will be going to the female flowers over here. Okay, so this is the requirement in case of seagrasses, since the flowers are submerged. Okay, this I already told you. Pollens, in order to prevent wetting, they are covered by mucilaginous layer. Okay, now the flowers in case of wind and water pollination, the flowers need not to be colorful. Okay, why colors are required? Because colors normally attract the abiotic agents, right, in order to attract the bees and all. So here they are not attracting wind or water, so flowers are colorless, you can say. Flowers are odorless, you can say. Okay, they are nectarless also. So these are some of the requirements. See, flowers are not very colorful, they did not produce, they are not producing any nectars, they are not producing fragrance also. Okay, so these are some of the requirements of abiotic pollination plants. Now let me tell you the pollination by biotic factor. Okay, as I told you, pollination which are taking place by biotic factor, there can be n number of biotic animals. Okay, if I am talking about animals over here, okay, a majority from the entire animal section, majority the plants are pollinated by insect. That's why I'm going to tell you in detail about insect pollination. Okay, so insect pollination, this concept, okay, the pollination by insect is referred as entomophily. The pollination by insect or through the agency of insect is referred as entomophily. Now there are also pollination by bats. Bats can also do the pollination, and that is called as xerophily. This is not there for you all. So time being, in the NCERT textbook you should know about entomophily, insect pollination, that is entomophily. Okay. Now, which are the characteristics of the flower in order to do the insect pollination? Very first thing, if you remember, flowers should be large. Okay. Now, why I am saying flowers should be large? Because if the insect is coming, the insect should see that flower. If the flower is very small and inconspicuous, the insect will not able to see that, right? So, flower should be very large. Then it should be very colorful. It should have bright colors. There's white flower and red flower. Obviously, the insect will attract to the red flower, right? So flowers should be colorful. Next, flowers should produce it should be fragranceful. We can say it should produce some fragrance, right? Next, flower should be nectarful. Why nectarful? Because if the insect is coming with the pollen, if insect is doing the work of the flower should also give some gift to the insect, right? So in order to give that gift or reward, we can say, the flowers always produce nectar, and that nectar becomes the food for the lot of insects. Okay. Now, which are the insects which are doing the pollination? We can say ants, bees. Then we can see butterflies, moths. Okay, there are lots. See, butterflies, flies, beetles, wasp, ants, moth, bird. Okay, also birds are doing the pollination. Now, which are the birds? Especially smallest bird, hummingbird. Okay, and sunbirds are doing this pollination. Okay. Some lemurs, you can say arboreal, rodents, tree-dwelling organisms. Okay, rodents. Then reptiles like normal garden lizard or tree lizard, gecko also, the gecko lizard also, you can say these can do the pollination. Okay, these are some of the pictures which are showing the pollinating agents. Okay. Now, as I told you, flowers should be large. If suppose flower is small, okay, they will not be, insect will not be able to see that small flower. Okay, in order to compensate this problem, even though flowers are small, okay, but they will be present in bunch, group, so that many flowers will be together, so the insect can easily see that particular flower and they can pollinate them. Okay, so even though they are small, they will be found in clusters or group, you can see. Now, the flowers which are pollinated by bees especially and beetles, or you can say flies, okay, some beetles also. The flowers which are pollinated by this, the flowers are normally producing specific order, okay, and because of this specific order, the beetles will find that particular flower over there and they will pollinate the particular flower. Okay. Now, flowers, as I told you, flowers should provide some nectar, right, in order to give them a gift. So this is in case you can say as a reward they are producing the nectar. Next requirement, pollens are sticky over here. Now, why they should be sticky? Because whenever insect comes, the pollen should stick to their body, right? So that when the insect goes to the next flower, the pollens will be automatically coming in contact with the stigma. That's why one of the necessity is pollens should be sticky. Okay, I was telling you about floral rewards, right? There's one flower, okay, called as Amorphous flower. It is very much tall flower, around 6 feet tall. You can see the picture. There's one lady standing over here. So such a big flower. Okay. Now this flower becomes one of the bird or one of the insect can get a place to lay its egg. So safe place to lay its egg. Okay. So some insects, some animals, they can lay their egg safely inside this particular flower. So that's why when the insect or any particular animal is coming and laying its egg, in order to that the particular flower is giving them reward as a nectar. Okay. So big flower over here, you can see Amorphous flower. Next, there are some plants. Plant name is yucca plant. Okay. Now this yucca plant cannot complete their life cycle without presence of moth. Okay. There's one moth without which they cannot complete their life cycle. Now why? You can see the picture here. This is a moth. Okay, and this is that yucca plant. This moth comes and lay its egg in the locule. Now what is locule? You know, ovary has a cavity called as ovarian cavity or locule. This moth comes and directly lay its egg into that locule. Okay, so when it comes into the locule, this particular insect, the legs of this insect or body part will be having pollens, and that pollens will be coming in contact with the stigma and pollination will take place. So fertilization will take place. Now fertilization will lead into formation of the seed, and when the seed is forming, you know that petals and all these are degenerating or they are falling off. That time the egg will hatch into a larva, okay, and as a result the pollination will take place. So this is a kind of reward. The insect is pollinated by the flower, whereas insect is getting safe place to lay its egg in the flower, you can say. Okay, so this is all about the kinds of agents of pollination. We have seen there are two agents of pollination, abiotic agents and biotic agents. Abiotic is example is wind and water. Biotic, we have taken more example of the insect pollination. Okay, wind pollination is referred as anemophily, water pollination referred as hydrophily, and insect pollination is referred as entomophily. That's it. Thank you, students.